The increasing cost of housing is a problem that affects millions of homeowners across the United States. Cher has found one solution to the issue of rising housing costs. Their mission is to make homeownership a reality for renters with unique loans and co-ownership programs. The founder and CEO of Cher, Eric Chebil, has been in the real estate business for over 15 years. Eric has always had a passion for home ownership. He went on to become one of the youngest real estate brokers by the age of 23. His appearance on the Bright Founders Talk podcast was pleasant and educational. Enjoy this episode with Eric. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bright Founders Talk at Temy. Temy is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Today, our guest is Eric Chebil, who is founder and CEO of Cher. Hello, Eric. How is your day?
I'm very excited to share some of my thoughts and to be on this podcast. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, you too. Happy to see you today. I can't wait to talk with you about Cher, but I want to ask you firstly, what is your favorite part of being an entrepreneur?
There's a lot of different things you get experience to. I would say the diversification in roles. So as an entrepreneur, you have to wear a lot of different hats, especially when you start a company. So whether that be in sales, in marketing, you're really your own person right from the get go. So uh, I definitely it's a great opportunity. But I would say my favorite things are building a team is for sure, finding people who are like minded, and as well as just being creative.
How have you grown personally from becoming an entrepreneur?
It would be from my leadership skills. As you initially start, a company, at least from my perspective, my growth from working together as a team and really working with like-minded individuals. I would say that when you first start off, well, at least speaking from personal experience, right? It was definitely a big challenge, but as you continue to fail and learn from your failures, I think that's you need to be able to be coachable and be able to fail quickly and learn from your mistake. So failure is definitely inevitable in the startups or really in life. I mean, when you start something, it's like riding a bike. Are you expected to do the Tour de France as soon as you get on your first time on a bike? No. So that's that's the type of mindset. So I've been fortunate enough to definitely improve some of my public speaking. A story that, or a true story that I have is when I first started Share, I had a terrible fear of public speaking, and it was only because I was exposed to these huge presentations. And I had a friend of mine who had told me, look, Eric, you need to get over your fear of public speaking, uh, or your company, it will be a challenge for it to thrive. And you need to improve your communication skills. And so, with that being said, definitely, I went from being terrified to speak in front of my friends
Mhm.
to now speaking in front of 4 or 5 thousand people. So it just, it's a learning curve, and you need to be able to get over your fears quickly.
Let's come back to 2019. The Share was founded. What was the driving force that made you start your own business?
It was my background. So I went to school originally at University of Washington in Seattle, studied engineering, architecture, finance. I got my real estate broker's license, my loan officer's license very early on in my career. And through my experiences, I was working at the largest general contractor, company called Swinnerton Builders, when I was 23. And although I was getting promoted every single year, my rent was going up around 10%, which a lot of people in the United States are experiencing, and they've been continuing to experience annually. With that in mind, I knew that affording a home on my own was impossible to do, even if I was getting promoted every year. And so I started to look into alternatives, not only for myself, but also to help my friends and my family. And so, with my experiences in the real estate and engineering space, I use that as a force for good to help not only, of course, myself, but to help my friends, my family members, and just the general community. Because we know some standard things is that in order to afford a home in metropolitan areas in the United States, you have to now earn individually $200,000 in USD. So, I mean, that's a huge amount of income for a personal income. And then, if you want to move outside of those metropolitan areas, the average income now needs to be $100,000 for an individual, and even that is really tough to earn. And so, I mean, in the U.S. right now, that's about 3 times what the average annual income is in the U.S. And so, looking at those numbers, I thought that there has to be a way to to multiply your buying power. And I looked in this model around, well, if I'm already sharing a space and living with someone, or if I have family support, why can't I simply just buy that home together with with these people? And I looked into this model of co-ownership, and it turns out there's been a massive demand co-ownership, a 771% increase in this market. So uh, that was really some of the driving forces of, uh, you know, once I knew the pain points, then I started really reviewing the market. Is there a market for this, and does it exist? Because one of the tough challenges is creating your own market. Is there a product market fit, and is there even a market demand? Why today? And so, given that it's just the home prices are just absorbently too expensive, that something very innovative needs to be developed, and that's really what led to the creation of Share.
Share makes home ownership simple and affordable through co-ownership programs and unique loan options. Uh, Also, Share is a real estate marketplace. Quite a lot of work, I consider. So, could you please give us more profound details about what Share is exactly doing?
Yeah, so it is definitely a lot of work. For those of you who are building, a two-sided marketplace, it's a challenge to say the least. But what Share is doing is it allows individual renters to be able to buy homes together and co-own either on one loan, or they have the opportunity to have two loans on one home. And
Mhm,
so how the consumer experience is traditionally now a consumer will come to us and they'll be earning maybe around $70,000 income, and they will get qualified with our internal loan system and our brokers for about, say, around 240, $250,000. Now, the problem with that is that the average home price, right, is much higher than that. And so once they realize, okay, I'm qualified for this amount, I can't afford a home, what's the next step? And so Share will explain as a concierge service what are the co-ownership opportunities for this individual based off their financial profile. So credit score we take into consideration, of course, income, debt. So there's a lot of different underwriting conditions we do
mhm,
weigh. And then we, of course, find them the property. We provide them the loan. If they want to meet on Share and say they don't know who they want to buy with yet, because something in life is that as you grow, people go in different directions. People get married and move in different areas of the world or the country, and so Share can also provide you with a new co-owner, so someone else you can meet with. And so, although that sounds so strange, like buying a home with a stranger,
mhm.
the unique benefit here is that you don't have to live with this person. And so we will provide you with a 2 unit. So you will have your own space. You don't necessarily even have to meet or see this other person, and you have your own loan. So uh, the concerns about what if the other person is to miss a payment,
Mhm.
that's not a concern of yours anymore. And so that is some of the unique value propositions. And then of course, Share is meant as a stepping stone into home ownership. So meaning that the intention here is for you to build equity. So you own the home, you keep it for a period of 2 to 5 years, then you sell on your own terms. And
Mhm.
so when you sell it, you have the opportunity to sell on your own, or use one of our very highly experienced team members to help sell and get the maximum value for your individual ownership. And so that's how we're trying to build wealth for individuals. And so uh, it's a full service, and although it's definitely a newer paradigm shift. But as I mentioned, co-ownership has been existing for years, but no one has centralized it and made it simple for primary residential co-owners.
You have experience as a real estate broker, so you understand the industry inside out. What changes have you noticed during the last, let's say, 10 years, and what are your predictions for the future?
Home prices have continued to increase, especially I mean, generally speaking, when we look at even in the course of the past, year, yes,
Mhm.
home prices have slightly been adjusted, but when we're looking at it from a whole, uh, our predictions is that based off of the past 60 years of data, home prices will continue to increase. And even if you say, when people think of, okay, is the crisis what happened in the U.S. With the subprime mortgage during the '08 crisis, is that still going to happen again?
Mhm.
And there's a lot of now regulations in place to prevent. And even if that did happen again, worst case scenario, which experts, what I found, the vast majority agree that that won't happen again to this type of an extreme. But the point being is that home prices, even if you kept your property during the crash, you would still be in a much better position now than if you were to have sold or not bought. So uh, the point being is, my prediction is home prices will continue to rise. We're seeing population, overall world population is continuing to increase.
Mhm.
So there's only so much space, right, in the world for housing. We also have the work from home policies are changing. So many companies, big tech companies as well, are actually requiring at least more of a demand for coming back to work.
Mhm.
So there was a nice opportunity for home buyers to get some relief who can get outside of the metropolitan areas, but that's being changed now because you are being required to come back to the office at least once or twice a week. So our predictions is home prices will continue to increase.
Mhm.
Uh, Real estate agents, in fact, it's such a saturated market of real estate brokers and agents. So a number that many people don't realize is that 87% of all real estate agents and brokers will never make a single sale in 5 years and completely quit the industry. So knowing that almost 9 out of 10 people who are in this field will financially be unsuccessful, uh, I expect that unless they adapt to this new co-ownership model and learn how to diversify their skill sets and now convert their clients of renters to now co-owners, I think they're going to be struggling. So I think the success rate of realtors I think it's going to improve as they adopt to co-ownership.
Mhm.
And I see that there's going to be a more equitable opportunity for more home buyers
Mhm.
sharing homes. And just from a sustainability standpoint as well, sharing homes versus owning on your own, you know, the construction development cost or construction development rate has been slow growth. So with that being said, this at least gives an opportunity by sharing these homes for the construction to slowly pick up the pace and to continue ongoing developments.
let's come back to Cher. What was the most challenging part for you and your team?
Finding product market fit is one of the most challenging things. This is a new paradigm shift.
Mhm.
And although there's a lot of indirect competitors that are talking about this co-ownership space for vacation homes and secondary homes, which is a great opportunity that we're leveraging, it still remains a big challenge. And so for the normal consumer to afford a home. And to understand what is co-ownership, because uh, so I guess to wrap it up, it would be education and getting that over to our consumers has been a big challenge. When you think about buying a home, you think of most people think of, okay, how did my parents do it?
Mhm.
And when when back in their time, you look back 30 to 40 years ago, if you were, a waitress or a server, or if you were earning like, 30, 40K a year, you could afford a home. But now looking at it today, that's completely impossible on your own. So explaining and giving that educational information to our consumers has been the biggest challenge, and letting them know that this is a new opportunity. And of course, since home ownership, it's such an expensive and personal feeling, that and the pride of home ownership that goes along with it. It's not like you're just buying a simple product like clothes or something like this, where you can refund it, or but there's a lot of emotions that are attached to it, and trying to get to the consumer to understand that this home ownership is a financial vehicle to build wealth.
Mhm.
So this co-ownership is meant for an intermediary step to then get build a family and so on. And but historically speaking, owning home has been the greatest resource to build wealth. And relaying that information to the average day consumer who is not acclimated to home ownership and those terminology, that has been our I would say our biggest challenge is the knowledge. We're built with using a variety of different tech stacks,
Mhm.
React, Java, Ruby on Rails. We do integrate with a few APIs as well. So, such as we're integrated with several different property data feeds. So that gives our consumer a ton of different resources in terms of what types of homes they want, what types of loans they can be provided. And so it's we built our code from scratch,
Mhm.
and so it's always ever changing. And what we tried to do, and what we're always aiming to do, is, of course, not only using open source code, but using code that doesn't that we can not only own but not rely on other APIs and other integrations, because that of course leads us open to, if the company goes under, who we're using, then our consumer will ultimately be let down a bit. So we're always trying to build in-house, and always trying to find that balance between, okay, does it make financial sense versus
Mhm.
just doing an integration.
Do you see the preference of some technologies in your industry?
No, not so much. I mean, with real estate, there's not a whole lot of huge tech changes,
Mhm.
because the reason I say that is because, going back to the emotional feeling of buying a home, you we need to understand that tech will never be able to just solve and a person buy a home only relying on tech.
Yeah.
There has to be, like, the bigger the purchase, the more human element is involved. And
Mhm.
so, with that being said, we're seeing a variety, either Ruby on Rails um, or React, or it really just changes. But uh, we're not seeing a whole lot. I mean, a lot of tech companies that we're seeing use even like WordPress, or just use a lot of free tools that they can just host their website on. So nothing too sophisticated that's really changing it out there because it's a lot of that human element.
Mhm. You've already mentioned some changes that will happen soon to the industry. So they will influence your company. It's obvious. So considering this, where do you see Cher in 5 years?
Being nationally across the United States, we're aiming to be the go-to co-ownership platform for first-time home buyers, so
Mhm.
they can more easily co-own and fractionally sell. So we want to be across uh, at least the majority of the states where home prices it requires at least uh, majority require two people to buy the home. But definitely, we're aiming to be closing and helping uh, annually around 8 to 10,000 home buyers annually is our goal
Mhm.
at the end of the 5 year mark. And so we are continuing to grow our team, and so yes, that's the type of persona we want to help is and end of 5 year mark, and we also want to have some new exclusive loans for co-ownership, being able to finance them on our own, and being more independent from using APIs and using other affiliated resources, and being able to just really provide a turnkey operation for our consumer.
Was it hard to find your teammates?
Yes, it is. You think this is the right company, I believe this is going to be what you want to do. But then as you go to market, that's when you really learn, okay, maybe this is not the right fit or different changes. As an example, in 2021, we were one of our revenue sources was a lead gen provider. So what we did was we helped this massive market of consumers, home buyers,
Mhm.
co-own together, connect them to this massive market of not so successful real estate agents and brokers. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, in theory, it makes sense because we're now making a new market for people who can't find a market. So it turns out that that was not as successful as we wanted. We made sales, but the point was that we learned that this the real estate agents and brokers need a lot of education around what co-ownership even is. So uh, with that being said, the team completely evolved. I mean, we only have one or two people from that initial initiative. So um, as you grow your team, just what I found is being cognizant that although someone may be really good at selling one product or selling a service, that service in a few months you may find out that it makes no sense, financial
Mhm.
sense. The product, the industry doesn't like your product. So you need to terminate that product and then revisit and change something else. And so if your team can adapt to those changes, you you need to let them go. And so uh, we've gone through multiple cycles of team members as we continue to improve our product. But right now, I would say that our team intelligence is one of our strong suits, and it is hard to find uh, people, but we've been fortunate enough to have applicants coming in from LinkedIn
Mhm.
and Angel List. So, but yeah, just being aware that I would say just being aware that the team is going to change. It's inevitable as more products come out and as different lines of business get terminated.
To sum up our conversation, I want you to answer the, I can say, most captivating question. What advice would you give to someone just starting their own business?
Start it now, and don't be afraid of failure. And because people ask me, well, aren't you nervous or aren't you scared? And I've always they say, oh, I've always thought about doing this. Whatever you're doing right now, that you know that is a constant fixed variable.
Mhm.
So if you listen just to like Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So if you're continuing in your position and you're not happy, you remaining there, it's not going to change your happiness, most likely. So uh, do what you love to do, and you'll never work a day in your life, as you know, a quote that's always referenced. So find what you love to do, and if you want change in your personal development and your career growth, make a change now, and don't be afraid of failure, because it is impossible not to fail. Just remember, riding a bike, you're not going to go to the Tour de France as soon as you jump on a bike. You have to fall. That's just how that's in life. So make sure you learn from those failures. And the faster you can fail, the faster you'll get to success.
Thank you. It makes a lot of sense. So I want to thank you for sharing your story with us, and also that you find time to join us today.
Of course, Alexander, it was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope the entrepreneurs and other listeners who are following this podcast and video will find this informational. And if anyone wants to reach out to learn more to me, they can visit me at Cher@Cher.app. That's CHER at CHER.app, or visit our website www.shareahome.com to learn more.